Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're so glad that you had the opportunity to join us. We're going to wait just about another minute so folks can get logged on. But in the meantime, if you haven't had the opportunity yet, if you want to just plop in the chat to introduce yourself, your name, your pronouns, and what institution you are representing today. So for those that just joined, if you want to take a minute just to introduce yourself in the chat box, you can type your name, your pronouns, and what institution you are working at. And feel free to do it now or as we go along. And we are going to go ahead and kick off the webinar now. So thanks again for joining us this afternoon. We will go ahead and get things started with some introductions. So my name is Jackie Satera. I use she, her pronouns. I serve as the Director for Residential Education at Bucknell University. I have a master's for college student development from Appalachian State University. And what is keeping me going these days is long walks in the evenings with my pup.
Hi, my name is Jillian Padilla. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a community director at Bucknell. I have my master's in social work from Kane University, and what's keeping me motivated is going back to reading, and I just finished reading Children of Blood and Bone.
Oh, it looks like we're having some technical difficulty. Patrick, we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patrick Pike. My pronouns are he, him, his. Like Jillian, I'm a community director here at Bucknell University. I have a master's degree in higher education and counseling and student affairs from Westchester University. And what I'm up to these days is I'm trying to take as many walks as possible and exercise. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Jackie, and she's going to be reviewing the 3 keywords that our team has been focusing on during this time.
Thanks, Patrick. Sorry, more technical difficulties. Just bear with me for a second. Okay. So again, welcome to our webinar on creativity, agility, and intentionality. We wanted to start the webinar by talking about why these 3 words are so important and basically talk a little bit about how we are implementing them here at Bucknell. So we're using creativity, agility, and intentionality kind of as our guiding theme these days. So there's so much unknown with the future, and all we can really do is kind of just wait for more announcements to be made from our institutions and beyond. So here at Bucknell, we just keep pushing through to be productive and also to have fun. Of course, making changes as needed with all things going virtual. So in all that we're doing, we're really just trying to make sure that we can truly be creative, be agile, and work with intention. So as we move through the webinar, our intention for this afternoon is to share with you what our work has looked like. And hopefully you can take away some resources and ideas to implement back on your respective campuses, or I guess these days, maybe I should say in your new virtual landscape. So we believe these 3 words are important to keep us thriving and working through the unknowns to basically help us stay motivated and to support one another. So as we continue, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that every team's dynamic is a little bit different. So some of us might be working in a house filled with other individuals, while some of us may be the only one at home. Some of us may have children, and some of us may not. Some of us have fur babies, and some of us don't. Everyone's new normal is a little bit different, and it's important that we don't get caught up comparing. We really need to make sure that we're being supportive, caring, and compassionate as we work through this together. So at the end, or even as we go along through the webinar, please feel free to share what your team dynamics are looking like on your respective virtual new landscapes these days. So now I will turn it over to Patrick, and he will review our outcomes.
All right, thank you, Jackie. So as Jackie said, she outlined the 3 words that all of our actions are revolving around here at Bucknell. To expand on those words, we have 3 learning outcomes that we developed for today that we hope you'll take away. You may have had a chance to read these already, but just in case, we're going to take a quick look at them. So after today, we hope as a result, participants will be able to apply what they learned to be creative, flexible, and intentional in developing strategies for their respective campuses while working remotely. As a result, participants will receive resources and ideas that they can research and utilize to help them thrive moving forward, both individually and as a team. And finally, we hope that you will take away, or that participants will be able to engage with others to boost morale and increase team dynamic virtually. So by no means are you going to walk out of this after this 1-hour webinar and be absolute experts in working with students through this uncharted territory. However, we do hope that this webinar will help you get the juices flowing so that you and your department can implement creative ways in which you can navigate working with students during this time. And even if at the end of the day, all you want to do is take away some of the examples that we talked about today and modify them to best fit the needs of your university, that's perfectly okay, because what we do at Bucknell and what we find to be working at Bucknell is not guaranteed to work for every college or university. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Jillian, who's going to give you a brief summary of our topic outline for today.
Thank you, Patrick. So during our time together, we have broken up the information in 3 sections. Our director, Jackie, will break down how she and the community director staff were supported and engaged with one another to stay motivated. Patrick will review on how community directors have engaged and supported RAs virtually, as well as me reviewing students, how community director staff have engaged with the remaining students on campus, as well as the students who have transitioned back home. Now I'll turn it back over to Jackie.
Thanks, Jillian. So I wanted to start by sharing how our professional staff has been engaging and pushing through as we continue to try to have fun and work with intention. So this picture here is of our Res Ed team. So let me give them a quick shout out because they have truly been thriving over the past few weeks and their efforts have definitely not gone unnoticed. So I'd like to share a little bit about how I've been engaging as a supervisor with my team. Again, for folks to potentially consider maybe some of these things you are doing, or maybe some things you can take away and make them work for your team dynamics. So to give you a glimpse of our transition, once we closed our halls, we basically went from working 2 weeks straight from seeing each other daily, starting with the morning coffee that we had all the way through dinner. And then in less than 24 hours, we transitioned to working remotely once we received the governor's order. So we transitioned, we reconvened the following Monday to really try to make sense of everything as a team. And this is where agility truly kicked in. We met on a Monday afternoon and talked about working from home, to-do lists, self-care, the unknown, a lot of the unknown. And what I think truly really helped the shift was talking about the unknown and really trying to understand what we didn't understand, but we were doing it as a team. And that was really important for us. So we were talking through scenarios, we were making action plans for all of the what ifs, and I'm sure you can all relate. There are definitely a lot of what ifs right now with all of the unknown. And although we did not know, and we still do not know what's truly coming our way, our team is really ready to tackle whatever comes next. So for this transition, they have had open arms to really tackle new projects as they've come down our way. And this is still true today because this week we return to campus to start packing and shipping student items. So what I would like to do next is really share some strategies that have had a positive impact for our team. So I'd like to start with communication. So the main thing that I would say has been really helpful for us has really been having open and honest communication. We talk through everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, which sometimes seems to produce more questions than answers, but that is totally okay. I believe in transparency and I believe that everybody really appreciates that. So we've continued to have weekly staff meetings. We meet Monday afternoons and we have the hours from 1 to 4 blocked off, and that's really helpful for us. We don't necessarily meet the entire time. Sometimes we only meet for an hour, maybe sometimes 2. Sometimes it might just be a quick 30-minute check-in, but we have the time blocked off, so that way if we need to run through things or we need to talk about what's coming up next, we have the time and we don't have to scramble to find time that all of us can get together later on in the week. I have continued with one-on-ones. We do 30-minute check-ins weekly, not only to talk about just the tasks and the work that everybody's doing, but sometimes just to talk because folks really need that during all of the unknown that's going on. We also started utilizing Slack once we started working remotely, and we did this to try to cut down on emails. And we did this so we thought that this would help, one, cut down on emails, but also just to keep everybody looped in with what folks are working on. And then we also thought that this could be helpful for, when this is all over, we can kind of look back and see what we were talking about, the articles that we were reading, and just kind of what was on our to-dos as well. And motivation, we motivate each other continuously, just sending little inspirations along the way as we go. And I am sure, like most of you are experiencing, back-to-back Zooms are truly exhausting. So I'm really trying to be intentional with not making or having everything be a video engagement. So we utilize Zoom for our staff meetings and one-on-ones and things, but we're a Google school, so we implement Google Hangouts. So sometimes if we need to do a video or we need to share a screen, we can just quickly do it through there without having to log into a Zoom meeting, or just using GChat or phone calls or text messages. So trying to get creative in that way. And then with recognition, we rolled out some paper plate awards because why not? Additionally, with that, I try to send personalized text messages or emails just to recognize the hard work and tasks that everybody has going on because, as we all know, everybody has things going on outside of work. We have also engaged in some virtual bonding, absolutely not mandatory, but if folks want to join, the opportunity is there. So we started a virtual cookbook with our Division of Student Affairs to do a recipe share. Each week we've started to implement Zoom staff meetings, which have been really fun. And our on-call person gets to come up with a theme, and then we all put that theme up in our background for our Zoom meeting and come together for some fun and laughs. And it's always fun to see what pictures people are sharing with one another. We do random picture shares, selfies, baby pictures, our pets, inspirational things happening in town or on campus. And then for those of us that want to move a little bit more, we have made a little thing to kind of keep us going and hold us accountable to doing that. Again, only if people want to join in, absolutely not mandatory. And there's a bunch of different book clubs happening right now too within our division, just in different social networks as well. And for meeting folks where they are daily, I feel like this is really, really important because checking in with folks now is really important for us to be doing, because one day folks can be great and the next they just might not be feeling it. So I think it's important to remind everyone that they can take time as needed, and it's important that people realize that, and that, again, we're talking openly about that. With professional development, we've been sharing articles all over the place from what we're reading, and then we take some time to talk about that as well. We have a weekly divisional newsletter that goes out. Patrick actually has taken the lead on that. So each week, newsletter goes out and it has articles in there, but then also some upcoming webinars for folks to take a look at as well. And then some colleagues, some of them I think are joining us today on the webinar, they shared a resource guide that was put together from their institution. So in looking at that, we thought it would be a really good idea to have a resource guide for Bucknell, for us, for our division, of what the transition looks like of working from home and how to set up your workspace. And so we've implemented that as well. And self-care, promoting it, encouraging it, and just trying to practice and role modeling it for my team, I believe is really important. So each week when we come together, we share what we've been doing and encouraging each other moving forward. So things look like, workouts or some pet parties. We have a puppy's first birthday coming up in a couple of weeks. People have been sharing different virtual planners that they've been using, if they're trying to read different books and track that, all different things. And it's been really, really wonderful. And then looking to the future. So as the weeks continue, we find ourselves having to engage in really thoughtful conversations while putting all of these different options on the table. So as a team, we approach our conversations with intention, and I really try to do my best to be or to provide the rationale behind the conversation. So a few things that we're chatting about these days for tension, and Jill's gonna touch on this a little bit later when she talks about how we've been engaging with our students. Restructuring our office, we have a vacant position right now, and if we're not able to move forward with hiring for the institution is at a freeze right now. But if we're not able to hire moving forward, we've been having really intentional conversations about what is this going to look like, and everybody's voice has been able to be heard about what they think, different options, how the workload can be shifted, and so that's been really helpful and beneficial for us as well. Again, talking about the unknown and rethinking our work, and again, being intentional with the decisions that we are making. We, like I mentioned, we're a Google school and we have a Google Doc for everything. So we just created one more Google Doc, and we're basically keeping a running list of lessons learned so we can kind of look back on it later. Again, just for a reflection piece. And on a different webinar I attended, I don't remember when exactly it was, but somebody shared, doing what is right for our students. And I think that this is always important, but I also think that right now this has an entire new meaning. And I really encourage and challenge people to think about that and redefining what that truly does look like. And lastly, I think, as leaders, I believe it's important to be authentic and role model behavior for your team. And hopefully this will allow them just to continue to show up as their authentic selves as well. So moving to the next slide, what I wanted to do was kind of capture a couple of visuals for you of what these things looked like. So For virtual bonding, I mentioned that we did a recipe share. So each week with the recipes, we actually put together a video and send it out to our division. So I am going to play a 60-second clip for you. So I hope you enjoy.
Todo aquel que piensa que la vida es desigual, tiene que saber que no es así, que la vida es una hermosura, hay que vivirla. Todo aquel que piensa que está solo y que está mal, tiene que saber que no es así, que la vida no hay nadie solo, siempre hay que
So that might have been a little bit fuzzy or a little bit delayed, but I hope that you were able to view it. Again, that's just a little something for a fun factor that we do and how we engage with folks in our division. And one of the other community directors on our team, Tracy Eshba, has been able to take the lead on that. So something else that I have found to be really helpful as a supervisor is creating structure for the new normal. So the visual that I have down here is basically I created kind of a task list. So as the community directors were creating their own tasks and to-do lists and structuring their days, they had this as a foundation of things to be thinking about and looking to the future. So there's very, very vague due dates listed on this right now, and then a description of the task, and then just things for, you know, items to know or we engage. It's again in a Google sheet, so we can, you know, comment and talk to each other through that as well. But that's been really helpful. And basically, we've been using the downtime that we do have to get a jump start on collateral assignments and even what would have been summer projects. And the team has found that to be really, really helpful. And then for communication, this is just an example of what our channels look like inside Slack. So I know that some schools use, I believe, Teams through Microsoft. So I think it's a little bit similar to that, but if anybody wants to engage a little bit about what Slack is or go more in depth about how we're utilizing it, I would be absolutely happy to chat with you about that. And then for recognition, we rolled out paper plate awards. Again, there's no rhyme or reason. We just did it to be fun and silly. And if people don't have a paper plate, they can use a napkin or get creative in any way that they want to. So behind this, it's kind of, so I don't know about all of you, but when I am in a room, especially with the RAs and we're about to announce something really big, I love having everybody do a drum roll. And so virtual drum rolls can be just as fun, also a little bit awkward potentially. But you know, the idea behind this is to do a little virtual drum roll. I show this paper plate award, and then the person that's going to give the paper plate award to the person the next week has their paper plate award showing in their video camera. So again, just to be funny and silly with that. And then I just again wanted to reemphasize, because I really feel that it's so critical to meet folks where they are, and for these daily check-ins, you know, providing the space that they need, again, telling them that it's okay to take the time as they need it, and providing that space and providing the opportunities for people to either vent or process or, you know, whatever it is that they need in that moment. And then for professional development, this is just a little peek at what the front page of our working remote guide kind of looks like. And then we have for self-care, we have a jump rope challenge that Jillian started for us. So this is just a little flyer event, again, for people that want to join, absolutely not mandatory. And then for looking to the future, we've started and will absolutely continue to engage in conversations about the unknown, but also talking openly about furloughs and what it means and how to stay positive, because again, I truly believe that support in that way is important for the team to keep on thriving and be agile during this time. So with that, I also just kind of wanted to show you a couple of pictures from our virtual Zooms with our themes. And then the CDs have been doing a really great job of taking these images and then putting it on social media to engage with the RAs and just also the entire student body that follows us on Facebook and Instagram. And, you know, when you have coworkers that make meetings fun, you know, it really brings a smile and makes you kind of giggle before the meeting starts. And so with that, I would like to present to you Mr. Stephen Appenell. Stephen is a fabulous coworker to work alongside daily, especially during these, you know, tough and rough and unknown times. And every day he comes on Zoom with a different costume that he has laying around his house. And it's so fun to wait until he puts on his video to see what he's going to be dressed up as the next day. And so as we move forward, we really encourage you to plop again in the chat what your team is doing, and then we will be happy to compile everything and share it back out with everyone. These are just a couple of ideas of other things that we're doing and things that are happening in our town of Lewisburg. So feel free to take them, and if it works for your team, great. For the secret neighbor one, you know, we happen to live in a small town, so it's easy for people to drive and drop things off at people's houses. But if you are in a bigger city, I know that that could be a little bit of a challenge. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Patrick, who will now talk to us about how, or talk to you all, about how we have been engaging with our RAs, both the current RAs for this academic year, but then also the RAs that we hired for next year.
All right, thank you. So as Jackie said, I'm going to be speaking to you about what we at Bucknell have been doing to support our RAs. So everyone who works with RAs knows that the main priority is basically to develop and support RAs so that in turn they can better serve their students. So, you know, at Bucknell, RA staffs and RIs are one of the most tight-knit communities on campus. They go through training together, they do events together, rounds, you name it. And unfortunately, to have that kind of so abruptly end and uprooting those interactions and engagements with students and fellow staff, we truly believe it's detrimental to them. And so what we wanted to do was we wanted to focus on ways that we could provide support and also bring back a sense of normality for the RAs. So those are the two things we focus on, support and normality. And as we go through this, just an important note, the RAs at Bucknell were dismissed right away, along with the students. I know some universities and colleges are doing it differently. So the moment the email came out from the president, the RAs did no longer have any duties. So one of the first things that we looked at doing for the RAs is hosting optional staff meetings and one-on-ones. I will preface that we have found greater success in interacting with our RAs in a one-on-one basis versus our group interactions. So we found better success working with them in a one-on-one versus staff meeting. But in order to bring everyone together again, we wanted to offer up optional staff meetings each week. And we made sure we reiterated that it wasn't mandatory because, like I said, they had been dismissed of their roles and responsibilities. But we also wanted to just provide space where everyone could catch up with each other, talk about online classes, talk about their new favorite Netflix show, and what have you. Since RA staffs are so close, we just wanted to kind of keep that going, even if it's just that one time per week. We also wanted to do one-on-ones. And so it's important for us that, you know, just like our students, we realize that RAs come from various places and their support systems look vastly different on campus than they do at home. So on campus, RAs have access to us as professional staff members, friends, faculty members, counseling staff, the whole lot. However, at home, we're not sure what their support system looks like or if there even is a support system. So we wanted to provide an opportunity where we could be flexible with them. We gave them access to our Google Calendars. We said if you can find a time in the morning, afternoon, evening, and you just want to have a one-on-one, if you want to chat, if you want to vent, get opinions, process, talk about classes, what have you, we're totally up to doing that. The next thing we took a look at doing was hosting our RA Awards. We typically do RA Awards at the end of the year in person, but obviously that couldn't be the case this year. So, you know, we had realized that in a lot of senses, the RA position can be a thankless job. You know, all too often RAs spend hours planning and hosting programs. They inspect safety violations, they handle crisis situations. And at the end of the day, sometimes the residents don't do the best at showing that appreciation. So we wanted to make sure that we went out of our way and we went above and beyond to express our gratitude for the RAs. So we decided to host our own RA Awards through Zoom. So as you can see, there's myself, Tracy, and Rob. We're all community directors in different areas. And we kind of created a nifty background to try to reflect an award ceremony. We came up with awards. We designated them to certain RAs. And then we made pre-recorded videos in which we awarded them, like clapped, all that, trying to make it look legit. And then we're going to also send those videos to those individual RAs. The next thing that we try to do to help the RAs and support them is by creating a Facebook group, not only just for the current RA staff, but also for the incoming RA staff. One thing we had noticed was that our students and staff, in a perfect world, once they left campus, they would still be checking their emails, but we found that not to be the case. So we needed a platform where we could still interact with RAs because emails were just not doing it for us. So to kind of remedy this, we created a platform where RAs from across campus could connect, and that was through a Facebook group. In the groups, we share resources, up-to-date information on topics, motivational quotes and photos. We inform them of different virtual events that are happening on campus since the roles kind of shifted and now professional staff is kind of doing events. Our main focus was really just to create a community, especially for the incoming RA staff. So on the Facebook group, they could talk about like their door decorations, their bulletin boards, maybe some type of events that they hope to plan in the future. The next thing that we took a look at is our RA staff mixer. So typically at the end of April at Bucknell, we have the entire new RA class come in. So we can talk about RA fall training, answer some questions about the position, but that's also an opportunity for everyone to meet their staff and their supervisor. And once again, obviously that couldn't happen. So we knew we still wanted to do this because we really thought it was important. So we were able to work through Zoom. To be completely honest, we were at the time pretty unfamiliar with it. So we really had to do our research. We were able to do things like learn how to create breakout sessions, how to mute people when they come in, things like that. So we informed the RAs a few weeks before the mixer that we were still going to do it through Zoom. We gave them the link, the password, the time, all that. And then we also provided an opportunity for them to ask questions via a Google form beforehand, because we knew there was a lot of uncertainty with things like, I was a spring only RA. Now that I might not be going abroad in the fall, would I be able to apply? Or I was a fall only RA, but if there's no fall semester, do I just not be an RA? So there's plenty of questions that we kind of just wanted to air out in front of the whole group. And so Jackie was able to kind of do that, introduce ourselves, introduce training, and then we were able to create breakout rooms where individual staffs would then be moved to their own separate Zoom. In there, we got started with GroupMe's. We created a GroupMe group, and then we assigned duty days for training, things like that. Our goal was to really start that community. I know even in my GroupMe, we already started sending memes, so I think it was successful. But one thing that was also important is because of time zones, we have students from across the country, but also across the globe. We knew that we couldn't meet everyone at the same time. Our meeting was at 9 p.m., where in some people, wherever they were at home, it was 3 in the morning. So we made sure to record that Zoom meeting, and then we also sent it to everyone in the morning. Another cool thing that we kind of just started with our RAs is we created an RA pen pal group. So this was in collaboration with Stockton University. We had actually created a Google form where interested RAs who would like to sign up for this could submit their name. And then what we do is we take all the RAs who signed up and we pair them with another RA from across the country. We put them in contact with each other, and then they can decide kind of what their relationship wants to be, whether it's just for support, processing ideas like, hey, what do you think about this event? What do you think about this door decoration that I was doing? Or they can just talk, really get to know each other. We are opening this up for anyone else. So after this webinar is over, we will be sending out this slides. And you can see there where it says click here to sign up for the RA Pen Pal program. You're more than welcome to copy that link and send it out to your old RA staff or your new RA staff. You're more than welcome to do that. And finally, one of the last things that we have been doing is we've had some of our higher up administration still continuing to contact the RA. And in this case, we had our Associate Dean of Living, Learning, and Leadership create a video that we were able to send to the RAs. So Dr. Jean Grassadonia, before all the RAs had left, she actually came to every one of the individual staff meetings at night and was able to get to know the RAs, know them by name, but also was able to ask them questions and also vet concerns that the RAs had, whether it was with processes, facilities, things, all that. Jane was able to take all that stuff back and then kind of compile all that and was able to respond to it in this this video. And that was really important for us because we didn't want to feel like the RAs to feel like we were just pushing that aside and not coming back to it. We really wanted to complete everything that we had originally set out for. And then just a little thing that we've kind of got started on, but we're going to keep progressing, is we have a Bucknell Residential Education Facebook group. So this is where we can just basically share what the office is doing. And in this case, we had actually took that photo, Jackie had shared it earlier, where our theme for the week was coffee house. So we each got assigned to spell out, "We miss you a whole latte." And then we were able to send that to the RAs, but we did it in a fun way where we actually found a website where you could take an image and turn it into a puzzle. And so we sent that to the RAs, in which then they were able to complete the puzzle to then see our message, which was really awesome. So that's some of the ways that Bucknell has been supporting our RA staff members. And now I'm going to pass it along to Jillian, who's going to be talking about ways in which we've been supporting our students.
Thank you, Patrick. So with 150 or so students that are still on campus, we wanted to engage how we were going to connect not only with students who remain, but also the entire student population. So as you see the next slide, we, as a division, rolled out virtual programming. And this was a collaboration with multiple offices and departments that included campus activities, student health, counseling center, and much more. And it provided insight as to how a full-fledged curriculum will look like in the future. Even though we are doing a residential curriculum in our own department, it was interesting to see how other departments ran and how easy it was to have one centralized place for programming. So the behind the scenes, we had an Excel sheet where different offices were inputting their programs, the times, program descriptions, and then we would input that information into a centralized Google Calendar. But to prevent students from feeling bombarded or with too much clutter with the programs, we would only send them a notification for programs that were happening a week in advance. So this was one sample of the events for one particular week. And if students wanted to kind of plan for the upcoming weeks, they had the access to the QR code where they can see what was happening later in the month. So these programs were family, friends, students, and even faculty members joined some of our programming initiatives. So one thing that we noticed as we were conducting programs were some people would join the programs, but they weren't necessarily coming back the following week. So for these two particular programs, we sent out a little newsletter after the program completed, just so people can grab some takeaways. If they missed the program, they can see what they can look forward to the following week and try to just engage them a little bit more. And for the next slide, you can see some of our furry friends who joined us for pet therapy over the last couple weeks. We had some cats, some puppies, and it was just a time for us to talk about how we were caring for our pets, especially as they adjusted to us being home full time. During our programming calendar, we noticed that there weren't a lot of programs happening during the weekend. So some of our community directors paired up to host a Saturday matinee using Netflix Party, as well as hosting a virtual open mic session just to diversify the different programs that we were offering to students. And so another focus was the 150 or so students that still remained on campus, because not all students were able to return back home. So one thing we did to engage with students was creating a Res Ed weekly newsletter. And so these newsletters were sent out once a week that included tips, resources, and even different hours on campus, such as food pantry, the post office hours, and even the hours to get food. We also had a little reminder for the virtual programs that were happening during that particular week. We had challenges of the week to get students out of their rooms, but also keeping safety precautions, as well as incorporating the CDC link for our particular area. This was feedback that we got from one of the students on campus because they wanted to see how all of the information was affecting our particular area. We also included information about housing selection, registering for classes, and even how to depart campus, which is actually happening next week. And then lastly, we also provided donated t-shirts so students can make DIY face masks, which were located in the student lobby, as well as some local resources. Some students, unfortunately, are not going to be able to go back home. So as some students do remain on campus, there'll be limited resources. So we do have local agencies that will help regarding with food, Wi-Fi access, and other services. And we offered a couple of services to the students who remained. And as Jackie mentioned a little bit, we offered a pack and ship as well as a pack and store option. So when the residence halls closed down, this happened during spring break. So not all students were able to come back and retrieve their items, and a lot of items had to stay in the rooms. So currently this week we've been going into rooms, making sure that rooms are clear, but also reaching out to students to see how we can best accommodate them, whether they want their items stored or whether we're going to ship certain items back to them. We've also been connecting with students during the semester that were on our Res Ed radar. This was a document that we kept for students that just needed additional support and additional resources that we wanted to make sure that we stayed engaged with them. And this was a really good piece regarding retention, because as we transition over the next couple months, when students eventually do come back to campus, we want them to feel that continuous sense of support and know that someone who has been checking with them over the final months of the semester as well into the summer, that they still have that person once they return. And then as we're venturing towards the end of the semester, we are working with the students on campus to create a plan to support them as they transition. So every student has been paired with a Bucknell staff member regarding how, if they needed financial assistance to get back home, or whether they just had extenuating circumstances such as flights being canceled, and just creating a level of support so that they know who they can talk to if their plans changed, or simply if they needed boxes to pack up their items as they went home. And then ultimately, the biggest part of this presentation is the keyword of resilience. So as we know that it's really important to remain optimistic and trying to be as creative as possible when bouncing back, because we have found that when we're collaborating with not only our staff, but with different departments, it really has helped us stay engaged during such stressful times. So really the best way to move forward is to rely on one another, be a support of one another, and this helps not only personally, but as well as professionally in the obstacles, throughout all the obstacles that we'll face going forward. So as we wrap up, these are just some key strategies that we have used as a team to be creative, agile, and intentional. And it's an overview of just some of the learning outcomes throughout this presentation, such as thinking outside of the box, trying to plan for the unknown, and just being ready to meet with students as they return in the future. So now I'll turn it back over to Jackie as we wrap up the webinar.
Thanks, Jillian. So this, one of the last slides that we have here is really just an article share and resource. So we just linked some things, and again, the links will be provided to you via email once the webinar finishes, either this evening or tomorrow. So you can click on everything, but as we wrap up, feel free to put in the chat articles that you've read, or additional resources, and again, we'll be happy to compile that information and share it out with everybody. So with that, we have about 20-ish minutes left, so we wanted to open it up for questions. So what we can do is you can write your question in the box, or if you want to raise your hand, we'll be happy to turn on your microphone. and you can just ask your question, and we can also utilize this time just to engage in conversation if people would be, if you think that that would be helpful moving forward. So I'm not sure if folks have the ability to unmute themselves, so I will go ahead and unmute everybody, and then I believe that that will give you the opportunity to mute yourself back if you need to do that. But that way, if folks would rather just ask a question in live time, you have the opportunity to do that. Don't know if that's working or not. Johnny, do you think that you could assist with that?
Jackie, in the meantime, while Johnny helps with that, there was some questions in here.
Okay.
Miranda asked, would you have any advice for getting other team members on board with these ideas?
Sure. And do either one of you want to tackle that first, or do you want me to?
I can add something. I think for me in particular, it's really, Jackie has given us the flexibility to share what our interests are. So in my personal time, I like to jump rope and read. So I sent out this to the staff, hey, anyone wants to jump rope with me, or anyone wants to join Goodreads and kind of keep each other accountable. So I think if you were to ask the staff to bring what they think is fun, that would kind of, maybe not everyone wants to join, but maybe a few people might think that might be interesting.
Yeah, I would add that by kind of just doing some of these things, I think other staff members might catch on. Maybe describing it to them might not be as like enlightening as if you just do it and you're able to see and show them kind of like the outcome of it. So I would just take maybe some of these ideas and actually just run with it and then get those results and then kind of pass that on to your fellow teammates.
And I'll just add that if you have ideas, you know, if there's things on here or even other ideas that you have that you would like to implement with your team, I think maybe going to your supervisor and saying like, hey, next week at our staff meeting, can we maybe talk about this, or can I have a moment to share something, and then just see what's on board. I think something that's helpful is to provide the opportunities, but also that everything doesn't have to be mandatory or fundatory during these times at all. I think having different options for people to connect in ways that they want to or what they need on any given day or any given week, because I think daily things are changing. And, you know, like I mentioned before, one day people could be like, great and fine and ready to tackle the world. And then the next day, you know, they just feel like they just need to take a day and stay on the couch all day, and that's perfectly fine.
Another question we had was, how was virtual open mic night? Jill, you didn't attend this, did you?
No, I know I touched base with Rob, and he said, I think it was in the middle, like around 1 o'clock during the weekday, so the attendance wasn't too great, but I think he hosted it again and just tried to reach out more individually. So that was one thing that Patrick mentioned, was when we were sending blasts to people, we weren't really getting that much people to attend, but once we started sending it direct messages or inviting specific students, or just saying like, hey RAs, anyone who wants to join, when we directed the message to them, that's when we saw more interest. I think over the last, so we've been doing virtual programs 4 to 5 weeks now. In the beginning, I would say even for the pet therapy and the knit and crochet, we had about 1 to 2 attendees, but as more people started sharing it and I was encouraging people to share it, we had about anywhere from 6 to 13 people attend for one particular session.
And so Jillian mentioned this a little bit, but we opened it so if people's family members wanted to join, they could. And once we started talking about that, family members did join, and that was really awesome. And some faculty members, we have a faculty in residence on our campus, and their wife joined some of the programs. And I think it was the open mic night. Rob said that a colleague from another institution joined him for one of them. So that's really fun too. So open to anybody that, is interested in joining.
I would also say that some of the virtual programs that we've had, we found some of the ones with the least amount of attendees are the most successful because you're allowed to be much more intimate. It can certainly be awkward at first, especially if you're trying to do like an open mic night with only 3 or 4 people. But we found it definitely more intimate, and people are more willing to share when there's not so many eyes on them on like Zoom or other platforms. Yeah. We have a question. Do you have any advice for those of us who live on staff and not receiving support or transparent supervisory staff?
I can start by answering that, and if you two want to add something. I think if you feel comfortable in upcoming one-on-one or just asking for a one-on-one, again, if you feel comfortable, I would maybe write up some questions and specifically ask what's on your mind, and it could be that your supervisor, or I think that there's plenty of supervisors, myself included, that we don't have all of the answers to everything, and everybody's style is a little bit different. So some people don't have the answers, so that might mean that they don't talk about it. And that could be, they feel like they don't want to talk about it because they don't know what to say, or because they don't have anything to say. They think that their team might think it's a waste of time, for lack of a better way of explaining it. But I think if it's important to you and you're looking for answers, or just to even hear, to hear them say, I don't know, or I don't have the answers and I'm still waiting, I would just ask them. You have nothing to lose from just asking or just sharing, like, this is what's on my mind, this is what I'm nervous about, or this is, I'm just wondering, or here's ideas of things that I want to work on. Is it okay to move forward with this? So if you feel comfortable, I would encourage you to do that. If you don't feel comfortable, I think maybe brainstorming some things that maybe how the whole team can come together, if depending on how small or large your team is, but if everybody comes together with some ideas and then as a team you present it to your supervisor, that might be one way to go about it. So those are just some quick things.
Yeah, I would agree what Jackie said about just being willing to ask. There was definitely many times throughout this whole process, especially when the announcements were just coming out that universities were closing and things like that, where I had so many questions, and I think Jackie did a really good job of answering them. But I think if I was put in the position where Jackie wasn't having that communication that I needed in order to feel like comfortable in like knowing what's going on and things like that, just asking her. And I think that can look a little bit different depending on whether or not you're actually comfortable asking your supervisor or not. But I think that would be definitely just a good start of like reaching out and being like, hey, I have some concerns. Can we meet at this time with like a one-on-one?
And the only thing I would add to that is something that Jackie mentioned about utilizing your staff as well. Sometimes if it can be a little bit intimidating, or if you don't have that support, is reaching out. Maybe another staff member might have the same concerns or same worries during all of this that's going on. So sometimes when your feelings are validated, you're like, okay, I'm not the only one who might feel like this. So it does give you a little bit more confidence when you do have to maybe bring it in front of the staff, bring in front of the whole staff meeting, that there's other people that are feeling the same way that you are.
Our next question is, how successful has group bonding activities been? And we've done recorded submissions, but nothing live yet, and I'm worried about participation and inclusion.
So I can answer it. I'm guessing that that's specifically for student staff is my guess. So I guess what I can just quickly mention, and then I can turn it over to Patrick for the RAs. The virtual bonding and things that we've been doing for professional staff and with the division, it's hit or miss. I think some of them, we're sending it out and people are like, hey, great video, keep them coming, where other people don't respond at all. So we just keep on throwing things out there, and I think different people are connecting to different things for our team. So our team right now, it's myself as the director, and then we have 5 community directors. So our numbers are pretty low, maybe compared to some of the folks on this call that might be in a larger team with like 20 or so live-in staff. But again, like not everybody is participating in the jump rope thing. I think I did it the first day and I almost like couldn't breathe after 30 seconds. And I don't think I've picked up my jump rope since, you know, but, but it's on my to-do list to do in the future, you know, and where other people are jump roping every single day. But as far as the RAs, I would say it's hit or miss. When we did the RA mixer, we have 112 RAs total, and I think we had 60 of them join the live video, like in live time. And then for the ones that didn't, we intentionally reached out to every single one of them via email or a text or a phone call if we could, just to check in to one, make sure that they were okay. If they didn't tell us ahead of time that they weren't able to participate, again, to build that relationship and make the connection. So Patrick, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I think you basically kind of hit it the head on the nail there. Yeah, some RAs that might need more are more willing to participate, but now that some are away from campus, we are finding that some don't participate, but that's also perfectly okay. You know, it's not mandatory, it's not one of their roles or responsibilities anymore, but I would say that it varies definitely by staff. I know Tracy, who's one of our community directors, had a large majority of her RAs show up to her virtual staff meeting or, you know, staff bondings. But then sometimes another community director could get 2 or so people. So yeah. Our next question is, many campuses are projecting major financial hurdles for the future, budget cuts, furloughs, fall opening without on-campus housing. How have you both kept a hopeful outlook, but also maintained honest and grounded communication for students and staff worried about this uncertain future?
So I can start by answering that. So at Bucknell, no decisions have been made yet about what the fall is going to look like. Budget cuts haven't been announced yet. And furloughs haven't been announced yet either. So we are very much in the unknown right now, and we don't have answers to a lot of those things. So myself and the CDs are engaging in all of those conversations and talking about like the what ifs and this and that, and have different plans. Right now, our plan is when the president of the university makes an announcement about the fall, we will meet and structure an email together to send out to the RAs specifically of what that means for them. And we will be extremely intentional in sending that within probably an hour or 2 of when he sends it. We don't know when it's coming, but we've already talked about kind of being ready, kind of dropping whatever else it is that we're doing to be able to do that, because we think it's the right thing to do, because they're all kind of just waiting in the uncertainty. We do not know yet if we're going to, you know, if there's a lot of conversations I think happening about, well, if they're not on campus, you still have RAs, you just move them to be virtual RAs. If you're on campus but numbers are lower, do you have to cut RA positions? So there's a lot of questions around all of that. We have not made any final decisions of what that's going to look like because we don't know. We've been brainstorming them. But so we haven't, how we've been engaging with the RAs, if they're asking us questions, is we just connect with them one-on-one and we just listen to them and then just basically vaguely answer their questions, but always ending with, I'm here if you need to talk, if you want to process it, whatever that means. I've had some RAs reach out to me directly, specifically RAs that work in our office that I have a little bit of a closer relationship with. And so, you know, some of them are on campus because they can't get home to their country. And so they're really just kind of scared and worried about that. So sometimes they just want to talk and have these interactions with folks, and it has nothing to do with the RA position. But again, I think just providing that time for them. And I also, I don't know if we mentioned this or not, but I think also thinking about connecting with students at night and on the weekends too is important. I've been having one, so because we're down, I guess I should say this, because we're down a community director, I've been serving in a community director role. So I have a staff of RAs that I've been continuing to connect with too. And so I have found it extremely helpful to call them on the phone just to check in or to send them text messages, and they engage. And the text message is just something like, hey, how's it going? Or hey, are you still baking? Or just kind of like putting something in that a little bit personally about them to kind of get the conversation going. And half the time that opens up to be like, I'm really struggling with this, I don't know what to do with that. So we have found that, and I think the majority of us have been doing that, of connecting one-on-one with them, and that's been really, really valuable, I think, for the students and for us to know how we can continue to support and provide resources from afar. Hopefully that answered your question, because I feel like I was just rambling for a little bit.
The next question we have is, are there particular times that you are recommending hosting programs? I can speak on that. So normally we would recommend during the academic year RAs to host programs around class. So you don't want it during the middle of the day because students will be in class. And we somewhat stated that too, because students are still in their virtual classes, but we also have to kind of transition because students are not necessarily wanting to do virtual events at night. So what we kind of found is our more successful programs are in like the late afternoon, so maybe like 2 or 3 o'clock. But once it comes to like dinner and beyond, we haven't had any good luck. I know Rob and myself, who was another community director, we were trying to do a weekend Netflix like party event where so we can provide events over the weekend, and that wasn't that successful. So it was kind of, we were just trying to experiment to see if students would come, and we didn't find much success in that. So I would say maybe not the weekend is ideal, and maybe during the week around that 1 to 3 time zone.
So it looks like the clock is about to hit 4 o'clock, and we want to be mindful of everybody's time. So we just want to thank everyone once again for joining us this afternoon. I don't know if there were more questions, but we have our emails up here, so please feel free to reach out. You can email all 3 of us or any one of us, and we would be happy to answer your question or just engage more. And once we get the recording, we will send everything out so everybody has it, and also the links to the slides. So thank you once again, and best of luck to everybody as you continue to work through all of this on your own virtual landscapes. So thanks and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Take
You as
care.
well.
Thanks, y'all. You did great. It's Kate, by the way.
Thanks.
Thank you. This was really, really wonderful. This is Michelle, by the way. Hi, Pat.
Oh, Michelle, you're the best.
You're so nice. I'm so proud of you. All right. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Well, great job, everyone.
Thanks. Johnny, do I have to stop recording, or does that just happen automatically?
You can click stop on there and it'll stop. Should be up at the top somewhere.
Oh, I see
think.
it.
Yeah.